Imagine you're standing on the deck of one of the most powerful warships on Earth. The engines are roaring, the mission is locked in, and then, without warning, the entire ship reverses course. No announcement, no explanation, just a sudden, silent pivot in the middle of open water. What just happened? What did the captain know that nobody else did? And why was the clock ticking down to something that could have changed everything? Stay with me, because what unfolded in those 30 minutes is one of the most jaw-dropping decisions in recent US naval history. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why it happened, what was really at stake, and what it reveals about the dangerous new reality America's military is operating in right now. If you're new here, welcome to Professor Walter Report. Hit that like button right now and subscribe, because we break down these stories in a way you won't find anywhere else. Let's get into it. To understand why this warship reversed course, you have to understand the world it was sailing into. The United States Navy doesn't just float around the ocean hoping for the best. Every movement, every deployment, every course correction is calculated down to the minute. When a US warship changes direction, especially in a high-tension region, it's not because the captain felt like it. It's because something changed, something critical. And in this case, what changed happened fast, and it happened hard. The ship in question was operating in a region that had been building toward confrontation for weeks. Intelligence reports were already flagging unusual activity. Satellite imagery had picked up movements that didn't match the normal patterns. And then, right as this vessel was pushing deeper into contested waters, a signal came through that stopped everyone in their tracks. The details of that signal, what it contained, who sent it, and what it meant, form the backbone of this entire story. And here's what makes it so extraordinary. The decision to reverse course wasn't made by a single admiral sitting comfortably in some office back in Washington. It was made in real time, under pressure, with incomplete information, 30 minutes before what military analysts believe could have become a direct flashpoint between the United States and another major power. Let's back up and set the scene properly, because context here is everything. For months leading up to this incident, tensions in the region had been quietly escalating in ways that the mainstream news cycle wasn't fully capturing. Back-channel communications between Washington and foreign governments had grown increasingly tense. American naval assets had been repositioned multiple times in a pattern that suggested preparation, not routine patrol. And the other side, whichever power was watching from the other end of those contested waters, was doing exactly the same thing. It was a slow build, a pressure cooker with the heat turned up, degree by degree, until that morning when everything almost boiled over. Now, Professor Walter Report has tracked a number of these naval confrontation scenarios over the years, and what stands out about this one is the specific 30-minute window. In military terms, 30 minutes is both a lifetime and nothing at all. It's long enough to make a catastrophic mistake. It's short enough that there's almost no room for diplomacy, for second-guessing, for checking in with anyone above you in the chain of command. What it comes down to in those moments is the judgment of the people in that room, on that ship, with that information in front of them. Here's what we know about the intelligence picture that was forming. The warship's onboard systems had detected something approaching. The nature of that approach, the speed, the angle, the electronic signature, was deeply concerning. In modern naval warfare, the first few minutes of a potential engagement are often decisive. By the time you can visually confirm a threat, it may already be too late to respond effectively. This is why modern warships are essentially floating sensor arrays, constantly reading the environment around them and feeding that data to decision-makers who have to act on probabilities, not certainties. What the crew was seeing in that 30-minute window was a probability assessment that nobody wanted to be right about. The incoming signatures matched profiles that had been flagged in pre-mission briefings. The trajectory was not accidental. And the timing, coming at exactly the moment when the warship was at its furthest point from friendly support, suggested that whoever was on the other end of this equation had done their homework. This was not a coincidence. This was choreographed. Now here's where the decision gets really interesting, and this is the part that most people never think about when they imagine naval warfare. The captain of that warship had options, and none of them were good. Option 1 was to maintain course and signal strength, to keep pushing forward and essentially dare the other side to make a move. This is called presence assertion, and it's a legitimate tactical choice. It sends a message. It tests the other side's resolve. But it also means that if the other side doesn't blink, you are now in a situation that has moved well beyond a professor's report or a news headline. Option 2 was to engage defensively, to shift to a combat posture, activate countermeasures, and prepare for the worst while still hoping it didn't happen. This too sends a message, but a different one. It tells the other side that you are ready, that you are not bluffing, and that the next move is theirs. Option 3 was the one they chose. Reverse course, pull back, live to fight another day, or more accurately, live to let diplomacy have another chance. What's crucial to understand here is that option 3 is not weakness. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of modern military decision-making, and Professor Walter Report wants to be very clear about this. Pulling back a warship in a high-stakes scenario is not the same as backing down. In many cases, it is the most strategically intelligent move available. Here's why. A naval engagement in contested waters without a clear mandate from civilian leadership, without air cover confirmed, without Allied coordination locked in, is not a victory waiting to happen. It is a disaster waiting to be triggered. The captain's job is not to win a skirmish. The captain's job is to serve the broader strategic mission of the United States. And in that 30-minute window, serving that mission meant not giving the other side the confrontation they may have been deliberately provoking. Think about that for a second, because this is where modern warfare gets genuinely terrifying. There are actors in today's geopolitical environment who want a US warship to make a mistake. They want an incident. They want a headline that reads, "American vessel fires on foreign forces," because that headline, regardless of the full context, becomes a propaganda victory, a diplomatic weapon, and a justification for escalation all at once. The 30-minute reversal wasn't just a tactical retreat. It was a refusal to be manipulated into a scenario that someone else had scripted. The aftermath of this decision played out on multiple levels simultaneously. At the operational level, the warship repositioned and the immediate threat window closed. At the intelligence level, analysts scrambled to reconstruct exactly what had happened, who moved what, when, why, and what it meant for future deployments in the region. At the diplomatic level, backchannels lit up with urgent communication, as both sides tried to understand whether this had been a test, a provocation, or something far more dangerous that had only barely been avoided. What the intelligence community concluded, and this is based on reporting that has since emerged from multiple defense and security sources, is that the 30-minute window was almost certainly a deliberate pressure test, a probe. The kind of move that a sophisticated military power makes when it wants to see how quickly the US can identify a threat, how it responds under time pressure, and whether its commanders in the field have the confidence to make independent decisions without waiting for orders from above. By reversing course, the US warship answered all three of those questions in a way that was measured and controlled. It said, "We saw you. We understood what you were doing, and we chose the response that serves our interests, not yours." Now let's talk about what this reveals about the broader strategic environment, because this incident doesn't exist in isolation. It is one data point in a much larger pattern that has been developing across multiple theaters. In the Pacific, in the Middle East, in the waters near Europe's eastern flank. The United States Navy is operating in an era of what military strategists call gray zone competition. This is the space between peace and open war, where adversaries probe and pressure and test without ever quite crossing the line into direct conflict. It's a complicated, exhausting, and genuinely dangerous space to operate in, because the rules are unclear, the stakes are high, and the margin for error is razor thin. What makes the grey zone especially challenging is that it rewards patience and punishes impulsiveness. The warship that reversed course demonstrated both of those qualities in 30 minutes. That is extraordinary. Under pressure, with alarms going off and incomplete data on the screen, the command team made a decision that was neither passive nor reckless. It was disciplined. And discipline, in the grey zone, is often the difference between an incident and an international crisis. Here's something else worth considering. The fact that this story exists, that we know about this reversal at all, is itself significant. In the normal course of naval operations, course changes happen all the time, and nobody ever hears about them. The fact that this one became known suggests that at least some of the people involved wanted it to be known. Whether that's the US side signaling resolve, or observers on the other side leaking information to test the reaction, or analysts putting pieces together from satellite data and open-source intelligence, the visibility of this event is part of the story. Transparency, in the modern information environment, is a strategic tool, just like any other. For the crew members on that ship, of course, the experience was something very different from a strategic calculation. Those are human beings at the end of the day. Trained professionals, yes, but people with families and futures who spent 30 minutes in a situation where the wrong call could have changed everything. The psychological weight of that kind of operational environment is something that doesn't get discussed nearly enough in these conversations. These men and women carry that weight every single day they are deployed, and the decisions they make under pressure reflect years of training, deep institutional knowledge, and a level of composure that most people will never be tested to demonstrate. Professor Walter Report believes this is one of the most important stories to understand if you want to make sense of where American military power is headed and how it operates in a world that is increasingly unpredictable. Because the lesson of the 30-minute reversal is not that the US backed down. The lesson is that the US had the confidence, the intelligence, and the strategic clarity to choose restraint when restraint was the right answer. And that kind of judgment, knowing when to hold the line and when to pull back, is ultimately what determines whether a navy wins wars or starts them unnecessarily. The waters are not getting calmer, the probes are not going to stop, and the 30-minute windows are going to keep appearing maybe more frequently, maybe in more dangerous configurations than this one. What this incident shows is that the people in those rooms on those ships are thinking clearly about what they are doing and why. That is not a small thing. In a world where one mistake at sea could trigger a chain of events that neither side fully controls, clear thinking is everything. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Do you think the US made the right call by reversing course, or do you think maintaining position would have sent a stronger message? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and the debate in this community is always worth having. And if this video gave you a clearer picture of how modern naval decisions actually get made, do me a favor and share it with someone who needs to understand what's really happening out there. Most people only see the headline. You just got the full story. That's what Professor Walter Report is here for, and we'll see you in the next one.